Football Express. It is January 2026. Is a wonderful Friday afternoon. We just got done with one of the semifinal games. We got one more tonight, but the main focus of this podcast today will be transfer portal, how Ole Miss and LSU is kind of shaking up. That's a really interesting storyline to be looking at right now, and kind of a college football recap in honor that we have one more game before the national championship. And I will do a deep dive on the college football playoff in another video. This is going to be just a quick run through summary. So starting off with everything that we have seen so far, we're going to kick off with the transfer portal. And you're looking at the transfer portal, there's a couple situations team-wise that I would like to highlight. But first off, we're going to talk about some notable guys that have already committed. Quarterback-wise, Baron Brown leaving South Florida. Obviously, he's going to go to Auburn to play under Alex Golesh. I don't think that was much of a question. I was unaware that he had another year of eligibility. I thought he was NFL bound, but he does have another year of eligibility. And a lot of these South Florida players like Newport, Navenport, and a couple other guys that were part of the South Florida roster is going over to Auburn, being that Alex Golesh is Auburn's new head coach. And this is going to make a statement that I said either false or true, depending on how it plays out in the 2026 season. I said that South Florida, if you put Alex Golesh and this South Florida team in the SEC, they would be right above the bottom of the barrel SEC teams. I think they would have been better than a Kentucky. More productive than Florida. Obviously, they beat them in a head-to-head on the road. I think they would have been a little bit more productive than Mississippi State, and they would have had a little bit more going for them than probably Arkansas. But that's where I seen South Florida last year. That's just the quality of team I thought the players were. Now, they're all going to Auburn. You're basically getting the Auburn. So you're not getting the Auburn Tigers, you're getting the Auburn Bulls. And there's another team we're going to talk about that's kind of similar. But I think Auburn has not a real shot of winning the SEC, but I do see a 7-5, 8-4 season out of Auburn, depending on how these players develop during the offseason and what else they can really get. The big question, and this is what makes a group of five, what makes a Power Four, an FCS, the D. What's going to make or break this team is going to be the offensive line and the defensive line. Like the trenches is what separates Power Four from Group of Five. The quarterback play is going to be no different. The skill position play is not going to be any different. How your DBs play, your linebackers play, your running backs play, your tight ends play. None of that matters between Group of Five and P4. What you're going to really see the difference in is the offensive line. So Auburn, if Alex Golesh locks in a sturdy offensive line, like top 5 in the SEC, then they're going to have a dangerous team come 2026 season. But on the same talk of quarterbacks, I don't want to ramble too long because I know I will have a tendency of doing that. Brandon Sorby, Cincinnati quarterback. I think this guy has Heisman potential, but I don't think he necessarily has it yet. The potential's there. Is he currently at that caliber? No. There's a lot of development that has to go down when he goes to Texas Tech, spring ball this offseason, and that's being his accuracy. I mean, Sorsby has the running ability. He has the wills. He can spin the ball. He can put it in some good places from time to time, but it's all about getting the placement together. He doesn't throw a whole lot of interceptions, so he's a smart guy, but you've also seen him in certain situations not make the right reads. He's not necessarily reading the 1, 2, 3 right, or he's not really seeing the defense, how they disguise it. It kind of confuses him from time to time. And that's just an experience thing. You experience playing ball a little bit more and you can start telling, okay, the skies cover 1, then they roll to a cover 2, or they roll from the skies 1 and all of a sudden they hit cover 3 and you can go 1, 2, 3 and that you can come back to the 3 or you can come back to the 2. However you roll from the field. If you roll from the field left to right, 1, 2, 3, and one side's a curl, but curl was locked, but then all of a sudden you see, okay, it's a cover 3 on my side, or you got 2 high safeties, and obviously one's middle, one's hitting the sidelines. He can turn back and say, okay, I should have had a curl route on the flip side. or have a drag route on 2. Drag route's not open. Okay, I see 3, not 3. I come back 2. Sorsby, with experience, he can start telling those things. Josh Hoover, I think Josh Hoover's by far one of my favorite quarterbacks in the portal. Coming out of TCU, I thought he was a very talented guy. He's another Fernando Mendoza type quarterback to me. When Fernando Mendoza went to Indiana, a lot of folks said, hey, that's not a good move. It's not going to be a good fit. I don't see what Fernando's doing if he wants to develop as a quarterback. He goes to Indiana. He balls out, wins Heisman. I think Josh Hoover has a similar skill set that Fernando Mendoza had going to Indiana. So I think Josh Hoover under Kurt Cinetti is going to be a wonderful fit. If I have to grade the fit of all the top quarterbacks, Baron Brown, Brandon Sorsby, Josh Hoover are kind of your top 3 guys that have currently committed. Sam Levitt still looking at a spot. Dylan Raiola is still looking for a spot. I would have to say Josh Hoover is my favorite and I think is in the best situation. Brandon Sorsby is probably in the second best situation, but I think Baron Brown has the most talent. So if I had to rank them, it would be Josh Hoover, I think will probably have the best season, followed by Brandon Sorsby and then Baron Brown. And it's just because of Baron Brown's situation. Auburn, it's hard to flip a team even if your quarterback plays well. Auburn's going to have to flip a team. Alex Golesh is going to have to adjust to the SEC play, just to the Power 4 play in general. But he used to be OC at Tennessee, so I don't see too much of a difficulty there, but I still need to see a couple games or at least see what offseason is looking like with spring ball. A couple other notable guys that are in the portal or have committed. Hollywood Smothers, NC State running back. I want to say he's committed to Alabama. I think this is a great pull. He's a sophomore running back, 106 carries. And I think this guy is going to be, right off the bat, a for sure addition to the receiving core. I think number 4, the way, you're going to have your good power back with number 4, Alabama. But Hollywood Smothers, he's going to be more of your agile, elusive style back, averaging almost 6 yards carry. And he's a receiving back. You're going to get a lot out of Smothers from NC State, and I think this is going to be a good move for Smothers. You're leaving NC State. That's kind of an up and down. You're going to go 8-5, or you're going to go 7-5, 9-3. You never know what you're getting out of NC State, but with Alabama, guaranteed you're going to get a great offensive line, regardless if what people say about Alabama. You're going to go to a 9-3 program, at minimum 9-3 program, and a team that's going to be always competing for their conference championship. Caleb Hawkins, this is a guy that I thought is one of the best freshman running back. He, in my opinion, was probably the 3rd or 2nd best running back in all of college football. I know I made a post talking about Cam Cook being the best G5. That's why I said he's right there in the top 3 for Caleb Hawkins. Obviously, he goes from North Texas to Oklahoma State. Freshman year, 200 carries, 1236, 23 touchdowns. I think he actually had 25 touchdowns, not 23. Probably looked at the stats wrong, but I also had like 4 more in the air. So this man right here, almost pushed out 30 touchdowns his freshman year, and now he's going to Oklahoma State. Once again, the make or break between G5 and P4 is the offensive line. If the offensive line can hold up, Caleb Hawkins is going to have himself a field day inside of the Big 12, because you're not really, as much as Texas Tech had a good defense in the Big 12, as good as Utah's defense was at certain points in the season in the Big 12. It's still Big 12 offense, and I think Caleb Hawkins is going to have himself a field day if they can get the offensive line together at OSU. And, a couple guys that haven't found a home yet. Cam Coleman, one of the best receivers in the portal. Isaiah Horton from Alabama's in the portal now. 2 guys that we're going to deep dive a little bit more on. Really, honestly, they could probably transition our talk now into the team segment. But Jace Brown and Eugene Wilson. Brown out of Kansas State, Eugene out of Florida, both going to LSU. Look, you're getting 2 quality receivers. What you're getting out of these 2 guys is probably one of the best duos at receivers that any college could ask for. Both are solidified number 1 receiver wherever they wanted to go in the country. Lane Kiffin gets both of them. You're getting a receiver 1A and a receiver 1B. And then just a little more notes on some quality guys. Let me get it out real quick. Notes are everywhere right now. Another guy we're going to talk a little bit more about is Keaton Thomas out of Baylor, 3-year starter. I mean, this guy has racked in tackles, over 200 tackles over the last 3 years. I mean, he knows how to get to the ball. 62 solo out of 71 total tackles this year. So you know he's going to be able to be a surefire tackler, something that Ole Miss was missing. And then Birch out of Minnesota, he is what everyone is calling the next Travis Hunter. He's leaving Minnesota. And then Sheriff Denson out of Florida. He's left 6 PDUs in 2023, and apparently Ole Miss is the lock for him. Now, a little talk about the team situations dealing with the portal. There's 3 teams I really want to highlight right now. 2 of them kind of go together, and one of them is just an outlier that I've noticed a couple trends with. First up being Wisconsin. Wisconsin, they needed a complete flip with the portal. They needed to bring in guys that could be instant starters to make an instant impact, and that's what they've necessarily done. You got Bryce West, corner out of Ohio State. This man had 91 snaps last year. He was a top 100 player coming into the 2024 recruiting class, an immediate starter in a Wisconsin secondary. Austin Kowalski, I probably mispronounced his last name. He's an offensive line. He's an interior guard center out of Oklahoma State. This man has in just 10 games, just over 600 snaps. He has a lot of experience bringing that to Wisconsin. You have another player and a tight end last year, Ryan Scardman out of Southern Illinois. 15 catches, 192, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he's going to add another receiving threat. You get a safety to add a secondary piece, a safety from Iowa State, Carson Van Diener, Dean Teener. This man, 18 tackles, 1 PDU, and a tackle for loss. I mean, you're getting those sizable guys in the secondary. You're adding some depth in your pass catchers, your tight ends, your offensive line. And then probably the biggest addition for Wisconsin right now would be Colton Joseph, quarterback out of Old Dominion. Last year, he went for 26, 21, 1 on the ground, 13 rushing, Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Year. He's a very capable dual threat quarterback. Quarterback alone is Wisconsin was its biggest needs with injuries. And Joseph is definitely going to be an instant starter. I haven't graded him on my portal reactions yet over on Instagram, but if I have to go ahead and give him a grade right now, for me, just because of the situation he's going into, I think he will thrive. I don't think the quality between Wisconsin and Old Dominion is too far off from each other. Granted, Old Dominion probably is a little bit better of a situation, but Wisconsin, Power 4, like I've always said, offensive line is always a difference maker. I think Joseph is going to be a star at Wisconsin. Not saying he's going to be a top 10, top 25, or like top 10, top 15 quarterback, but being at Wisconsin, he's going to be a star for the Wisconsin Badgers. And then 2 other teams that I really want to talk about. And honestly, this is going to take up a lot of our times. If I cannot get to the college football recap, then I'm just going to do a full-on recap in my next podcast, which will be on Mondays. By the way, Mondays and Fridays will be the new podcast uploads. I'm going to try to get something put together so I can start uploading some kind of video, long-form video over on YouTube. So watch out for that. Like always, you go look for Football Express, FBX Express, put in FBX and then EPRES, FB Express. You can find me over on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Now, granted, YouTube is probably the biggest platform I'm currently on, but if you want to see a lot of my reactions, just graphic post reactions, go to Instagram. And then if you want to see a lot of my live game reaction and highlights, go check out my TikTok. And then all my long forms obviously will be over on YouTube. And then, like always, you can always listen to these podcasts wherever you listen to your podcast app. Now, with the update out of the way, the 2 teams I really want to talk about right now kind of coincide with each other, being Ole Miss and LSU. I really want to talk about Lane Kiffin because the main reason why Lane Kiffin left LSU, everyone talked about, was because you're not going to get quality players out of the recruiting, and you're not going to get guys coming from transfer portal. You're not going to get quality high school recruits, and you're not going to be an every year national championship contender. And It's going to be really hard to compete on a regular basis compared to LSU. And then all of a sudden, Ole Miss, playoff rise, literally one play away from the national championship game. I mean, Ole Miss was right in it with Miami. Ole Miss beat Georgia. I mean, Ole Miss has, and then you want to look at the portal wise, I don't think Ole Miss is going to take a step down in 2026. Even if they have coaching changes, I don't see much of a step down out of Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is a quality program now. I mean, they're a guaranteed 9-win program. And you look at what they've gotten out of the portal, they've gotten substantial guys that are going to be instant starters and like sure up a lot of their biggest problems, on which made it so hard for them to compete. And then all the guys that are ready to come back for next season are already key pieces for this season, like Keywan Lacey. He's currently signing it. He signed a new deal to come back, and he's one of the best running backs in all of college football. At Trinidad Chambles, he's signed a new deal. If he can get another year of eligibility, he's coming back, and he's going to be probably the best quarterback in all of college football next year. You get a tight end group, a receiving group that most of them are coming back. You want to have an offensive line that is going to be highly experienced. I mean, you got a defense that had a lot of secondary problems, had a lot of tackling issues. But that's what I mentioned about Jay Crawford and Thomas from earlier. Thomas going into that linebacking spot. Out of 71 tackles, this man had 62 solo. He only had 9 assisted tackles. So this man is going to be a knack for getting you on the ground. Jay Crawford, he's another guy that is going to be a guaranteed number 2 corner. I mean, I don't necessarily think he's quite number 1. He's a productive SEC corner, so he's going to have experience with a lot of the receivers that he'll be playing on a week-to-week basis, and he's a sure enough tackler, something that Ole Miss is needing, and he's very competitive in man coverage. So like I said, I don't know if he's going to be corner 1 for the team, but he's definitely, in my opinion, corner 2. So you got a sure man coverage, a sure tackle out of Jay Crawford for your secondary, and then you throw in a Thomas that is going to be a surefire tackler, and then another piece for the defense, Jonathan Maladano, being added out of the transfer portal. And there's a couple more guys Ole Miss has grabbed out of the transfer portal. Ole Miss looks like they're, okay, we're geared up, we're ready to go, and we're going to be a very productive team next year. They're going to get who they want. They've grabbed who they want. While LSU, on the flip side, all this talk about, we can get who we want, we're going to have more of a chance in recruiting and in the transfer portal because everyone wants to come here, hasn't been the case. Every other quarterback that Ole Miss has looked for in Brandon Sorsby. They've also looked at guys like, who else? Was Brandon Sorsby, DJ Lagway, probably the 2 biggest names, not choosing to go to Old Trinidad Chambles was deciding to go to Ole Miss. And then Sam Levitt has yet to sign a deal. Like, he's still up in the air about where he wants to go. So you got an LSU team that can't find its quarterback. They really aren't grabbing anybody. I haven't seen anything out of recruiting. They haven't grabbed anything out of the transfer portal. And then you look at what they do have or what they've lost. They've lost a lot of their key players from last year. So you're going to have build a whole new team chemistry, which was already going to be hard enough being that you're a new coach. And the 2 biggest additions that you've gotten is Eugene Wilson III and Jace Brown. But those 2 receivers would be almost useless without a quality quarterback and a quality offensive line. So for right now, when you look at LSU and you look at Ole Miss and you look at Lane Kiffin and him going to LSU, Ole Miss is moving up while LSU is kind of staying stagnant. So the way I evaluate it is I think Ole Miss is in a lot better situation right now compared to LSU. And unless Lane Kiffin can kind of figure out something with quarterback situation, it's going to be a rough ride over there at LSU. And Lane's going to be a continued kind of joke and meme for much of the offseason. But like always, I'm going to kind of cut it off here. But like always, check out my other socials. I'm on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. You can kind of get this podcast wherever you want to get your podcasts and listen to them at. Like always, my name is Charles Simmons. This is Football Express Podcast, and I'll see y'all on the next episode.